I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
All right, we got the 2024 AQHA World Champion Senior Head Horse owner of Starlight Oak, 017, Tyler Schaffner, owner and trainer. Man, this is a pretty cool story. I love this. Been wanting to get you on the podcast anyway. I'm glad we waited because, man, I'm pumped. I'm really pumped for Pockets.
Yeah, me too. It's he's been a game changer to our horse program for one, but just me, just being in the horse business. He's been easy, from day one. And
Tate said that this has been he said this is so good for this horse because he's been under the radar, the whole time. I think you guys were fraternitying on him, and then this was such a good hit. I mean, this has to be the dream, to win the AQHA World Championship, and he's a stud.
Yeah.
And you're the owner and the trainer, and you trained him. And I thought too was, what was really cool too, were Tate basically, what do you say, got on him one day beforehand.
Well, yeah, he got back from using him as a help horse at the ARHFA finals, brought him home, and he had an abscess. So we were thinking, well, we'll pull him out. Not even going to send him up there. And he goes, well, let's see if it breaks. Well, 2 trips to the vet, and Ty's my vet, tipped in at 113, and he said, I think it's going to be okay. He said, I'll send some stuff. We'll draw it out, whatever he used. Tate took care of him. He wouldn't let me take him home. And, I mean, that's what he thinks of the horse. And he said, just leave him here. I got it. And Wednesday, that abscess finally popped. And so he run some steers on him Thursday morning before they left to go up there. And that's the only time he's rode him since the fraternity at Fort Worth.
Well, I remember watching him because I went up there and watched the healing, and he said he helped 30 people. I think he had between the 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think he said he had 30 runs within the 2 days up there helping.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just did the same thing every time.
Yeah.
His deal was, he said, man, no matter however you ride, that's how he does.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's pretty much wherever you want to put him. He's always, and he's been that way, and like he was worried about running too many on him. And I told him, I said, well, you're not going to run too many on him. For one, you're smart enough about it, but two, he's going to take it. It's kind of how his training programs went.
Well, it was pretty cool too. He told me that I think his helper horse wasn't working out. And so after he won the world on Pockets, he had to go help the healers,
mm-hmm.
and his help horse, I think he told me, something happened, so he had to get on Pockets,
yeah,
and finish it out, and then helped him win first and second in the healing in the world.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
He's extra special in my mind. Going from a jackpot horse, I've rodeoed to a small extent on him as a heel horse, but then you can go and show him at an AQHA style horse show versus the Royal Crowns or the ARHFAs. It's 2 totally different runs. And
yeah, because it's a different style, huh?
Yeah.
That's what's so good about him, is he can do whatever. That's what's pretty cool about him. So I'm not very familiar. I've never been to an AQHA show before. So how many head is it?
At the finals, he run 1 on Friday, and then bring the top 20 back to the final round on Sunday. And I'm not a whole lot further ahead of you on an AQHA show because this was our first year doing it. And I haven't gone to a one of them. I've just seen him with Tate. The ones he went to qualify for the finals. Will had junior rodeos or the little kid stuff of the summer, so I went with him to that and just sent Tate and found someone else to heel on him, and I just left it in his hands. Drop him off. He takes him, brings him home. I drive back over there, pick him up, take him back to my house.
So what I've seen where the AQHA has really stepped up their payouts in the last couple of years. It looks like that they've kind of realized that there's a need for that to be able to get the money into it, and it's really helped revive it, in my opinion, too. There seems to be a lot of people now going to the AQHA shows, and so what did it pay to win the senior heading?
It paid $23,900 and I think $60 and some change or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it was. And I didn't even know what the payout was going to be until we were watching it. Like I said, I didn't go. My mom came and visited, so we stayed home and then had some other stuff going. So I found someone else to ride him. John Ryan was going to heel on him for me up there, so I didn't even have to go. And it worked out because apparently I'm the bad luck charm. I didn't go up there and we won.
That was really good. So what is kind of the difference between the AQHA judging and, say, the American Rope Horse fraternities? The only thing that I kind of know of a little bit is the AQHA is just strictly judged, where the American Rope Horse fraternity is judged and timed.
Right. I think the scoring is still the same on the judging cards. The difference is just the style that they're looking for,
Now, is the same four maneuvers. Is that what I heard? Is that correct? So the scoring, the running rate, the corner.
Yep.
And then the face.
Yep. The two biggest differences on the head horses is they want them to slide more when they set the steer. And then same in the face, they want them to slide into the face and then turn on their hind end instead of kicking their hind end around like you would on a rodeo or a jackpot horse.
Yeah.
And I told Tate, I said, well, we've never faced him that way, but he naturally kind of wants to. So let's just let it all hang out, man. See what happens. You ain't going to screw nothing up. Just give it to him.
Like I say, that's the one thing about that horse. It's pretty cool, man. He'll just do whatever you ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've done a good job of putting that in there. But what a week. That is a cool week and this is it. This is finally it for a lot of the guys. Like this, it's been a long month. A long year for a lot of these guys. There's been so many fraternities. But holy smokes, between the Rope Horse fraternity in Fort Worth and then now the World Show, and then I think Driggers has one more.
On the 16th and 17th.
On the 16th and 17th in Abilene, correct?
Yep.
That'll be a gold buckle. And then these guys got some time off, which is going to be well-deserved and well-needed, I think, for a lot of these guys and some of the horses.
There's getting to be enough of it going on where they can stay on the road if they wanted to. And you know all about that. But they, it's great for the industry.
Yes,
absolutely. It's so fun. And it's made so many good horses in general. There's so many good horses out there where, the guys that can really rope have learned how to make these things, keep them going. And there's guys coming up, and then there's always a new person. You're like, man, you don't go for 6 months to one or a year, and you're like, what the heck is this guy? It's not easy by no means.
No, that was me. When I came back, there was guys I never heard of, seen, and that they ride good. Horses look good. And I'm like, you're starting to see it step up. And then I think another thing too is that, they're also these reels that they have on social media between Facebook and Instagram. I mean, the cameras are so good, and the slow-mo at the right times come in where you can see what they're doing with their left hand, when and where them horses are collecting. You can study so much, and I think a lot of people are learning a lot just by watching the amount of runs that you can watch, and they're kind of putting it into their training program and then understanding the maneuvers to where they can know what the judges are looking for. And there are so many good horses.
Oh, man. And you nailed it on the head with them reels. I don't know how many times I get busted staring at my phone from my wife going, what are you doing on your phone? I'm like, no, I'm watching reels, and it's all that stuff, whether it's them or the cow horse or anything, because I'm addicted to the horse thing, and it's whatever I can do to get better.
Yeah. And I would say with 3 boys, especially one that just hit the ground, probably just trying to get a little bit of quiet time.
Yeah.
Just be able to watch a little social media.
Yeah,
you're busy
between
there's a lot. Running cattle, all the horses you got, and then 3 boys on the ground.
And that was awesome. Kind of one of the reasons I didn't want to go up there and heel, is everybody's got 5 horses already that they could show in it. And I was like, well, I told Tate he didn't have a choice. He was taking him no matter what. And, but having the boys, having the cattle deal, and then everything else I have at the house to rides, 2s and 3-year-olds, I haven't been roping a whole lot. So I'm like, I don't know if the World Show is where I need to.
Well, and I think that's a testament, for one, how good you train the horse, and 2, for Tate, that between the 2 of you, you guys do well together. There's good chemistry where he takes him one day to ride the horse and then go win the AQHA World title. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
like I said.
He's helped me a bunch to where I can get on him, and I don't try to make him work for. I like Tate's style, so which a lot of us do. Obviously, he's doing great.
Absolutely,
and the horse fits him. Horse fits me, but at least when I get on him in the days off, he's yelled at me just enough in certain places to where, hey, just don't worry about it. Just he's fine there. Just do that. But most of it was scoring. I mean, I've rode him good enough, but I didn't head good enough to really know where to always do the right maneuver and then after roping with him a bunch, you watch, and I can learn from watching as good as a lot of people. And it's just helped a bunch. So,
well, and I think too, what I've noticed also is that these guys ride so many horses. Some of these guys run 35 to 40 head a day. They're not able to almost articulate it.
Yeah.
They're almost able to show you, because it's feel. And sometimes to be able to put feel into words is very difficult.
Yeah. You can't teach feel.
Yeah.
The only way, and I think that's what has helped me, is everything I've ever roped on has always been green. As soon as they got good, sold him.
Yeah.
And this has been the longest I've ever kept a horse in my life. I mean,
that's cool.
We bought him as a yearling, and he's 7. And he probably reaches that limit by 4 years over anything else I've ever kept. And apparently it paid off. But
oh man, like I said, that's got to be a big week. I mean, how excited are you and Lance? You and Lance are partners on the horse, correct?
Yep.
And like I say, that's every owner's dream, is to be able to have a stud that rocks it right there at the elite, at the elite place. That's awesome. So that's gonna be real exciting. But so it was great week. Like I say, the futurities have been, they're almost done. But in the futurity world, man, there was kind of a tough situation that I was wanting to talk about a little bit. I haven't got to do a podcast since I heard this story. But I was wanting to be able to kind of bring it to everyone's attention and be able to help out in any way we can with this platform. But Clyde, Bulljack, and Sierra, they had up there in Wichita Falls, Texas, they had a little boy and living in a camp trailer. And I believe Sierra, which is something we all did, we always do. I think she had the baby monitor on, from what I heard. Literally just walked outside, caught a horse for a client, helped it in the trailer, wasn't gone minutes. They said minutes.
Yep. And
AC unit caught on fire in their camp trailer and burned everything they own, and
lost a little guy.
And man, it's something that, man, that rocks you right there. I mean, that's something that nobody wants to hear, and golly, everyone's heart goes out to him. I mean, there's been so much money raised for him, and a lot of people putting things on sale online. The Western industry, that's what's great about it, is everyone's been stepping up, and there's still a GoFundMe page. If you get on my Facebook page, Charlie Crawford, I've shared it. I know Relentless Remuda shared it. I know Joseph Harrison shared it. I think everyone in the industry has shared it and stuff. So, if you feel like there's, you're able to help them out, there's a GoFundMe page still going. And so it's great that Western Industry is doing everything we can to try to help. So,
and we'll put and it was kind of a plan before it happened this weekend of winning, but now that he won that up there in Oklahoma City, it kind of puts a little more bread on the under the butter. So I'd like to donate a breeding to him on that, and
that'll help a lot now, especially with him being the champ. So that's so anybody that has the opportunity to help, that would that's going to take a long time. Man, I hate that. But, So let's get back to pockets a little bit. We've talked about a lot of the athletes that we've had on the podcast and stuff, and I want to talk about Pockets, the athlete, a little bit. So you said you and Lance, you guys bought him real early, right?
Yeah.
Real young. You didn't raise him, you bought him, correct?
We bought him from Joanne Parker as in January, just when he was turning a year old. I called Larry D and asked her, I said, hey, we're in the market for a stud prospect, and for what we do, the horses you get to ride have always been amazing. Tombstone, she had him at the time, and I said, as much as I like Tombstone, what do you suggest? And she goes, man, you can't beat the Gypsies. And when it comes to rope horses, you can't beat them. I said, well, I'd like to get one if you could get me Joanne's number. And she did, and asked her if she thought they might have had a brother to Tombstone up there. And she goes, well, you can ask her. And I said, well, I don't want to step on your toes. It's kind of your little honey hole up there. I don't want to be that guy. She goes, no, I'd love for you to get one. So I called up there, and sure enough, Joanne said, come. This was on a Wednesday. She goes, well, if you're serious about one, you better hurry up because I'm cutting them all on Friday. I'm like, okay. And she goes, all right. I said, well, I'll come look at him. And she hung up. I was like, wow. So called her right back. I said, I don't know where you live. You're going to have to give me an address.
I need a little more intel.
Yeah. So she's like, just go by the feed store, blah, blah, first place on the right, Millsap. Okay. So pull up. We're looking at the colts. There's 14 of some of the best looking, most uniform horses you can find as yearlings running around in a pen. And I'm like, I'm supposed to pick one, and I called Lance before I left. I said, hey, I'm going to look at a stud colt. And he goes, all right, well, let me know what you come up with, whatever you think. So, okay. Usually when me and him would make a decision on what we were going to do, we would usually talk it over before we pulled the trigger on something. And I get up there, and me and the wife were looking at the colts, and I had one picked out, and Joanne wasn't out there yet. Finally, she comes outside and standing there against the fence, and all these colts are up there. And the one I had my eye on was in the back, and something about him I just liked. I mean, just right off the bat. And she says, well, here he is. That's him. And one standing right next to me. And I was like, all right, sounds good. She knew I wanted the one out of the Doc's Oak mare. And I said, that's good. And I said, well, what about the one standing back over there with the little white sock, just a little star on his head and a snip on his nose? She said, I'm not real sure. And she looks around. She goes, oh, that's him. I'm like, sold. Put him in the trailer. So we go home, and Lance calls a little bit later, and he goes, well, did you like anything? I said, yeah, I bought him. He goes, okay. All right. I said, well, it was kind of one of those deals where I didn't want to pass it up, and she's going to cut him on Friday. And he kind of just fit the bill. And we went from there and starting him. I started him. And I was going to breed him as a 2-year-old was my intention, just to kind of get the ball rolling, just breed him to a couple mares, see what he throws. And I didn't have a lot of rides on him. And I had to have a surgery. So I didn't have very many rides on him. And I thought, man, he's just, he's always laid back, but he still had some feel to him. But I was like, I really think my mares need a little more feel than what he's got. So yeah, I didn't breed him. I thought, man, he just don't quite have what I think I'm looking for, and it's too close to call. He's obviously got 12, 15 rides on him, something like that, I think. And I tried finding somebody to take him and ride him and go on with him since I was going to be out for a little while. And I was like, man, I just got him started. I need to keep him going. I got thinking about it. I was like, no, I'm going to do this whole deal myself. I'm going to breed him. I want to know what I'm breeding. Not that I know more than the next person, but at least I just know. And so I didn't breed nothing to him that year. And then that fall rolls along, and I was like, yeah, I messed up. I probably should have bred some mares to him. He was a little slower maturing, and he was extremely green. I started going up and roping with Tate, and he was at Fighting 7, renting Kyle Kaler's place up there. And I'd go up there and rope with him all the time, started roping on him. And I mean, he was green, not just as a rope horse, just riding. Like he's just kind of been thrown in it. We trained him as we went from the little bit of time I spent inside the arena on him, straight outside to using him to roping on him and then back outside. And he never was just, let's do something perfect one step at a time. But at least I used my head or tried to. Most of it was I got lucky enough and he just took it. And so I told him, I said, hey, I want to enter one of these fraternities. And
how old is he at that point?
He was 4. So we took him
from 2 to 4, you just been riding him, training him.
3-year-old year, he's when he got the most of his riding and used outside. So we start roping on him, which I've already roped a lot of stuff on him because when we would, being in the rope and steer business, we would castrate and work all the potentials. We'd put them in the arena or in the cutting pen. We'd just head and heel them, put 2 in there at a time. So he's already roped a bunch of stuff, but hardly at all out of the box. And I still think that is why he is the way he is. Because he got a lot of steers not out of the box. No pressure there.
Yep.
And you can see how he handles pressure anyways, the way he stood in the box up there. He's like that everywhere.
Yeah.
And so Tate goes, oh, we can go. I was like, I don't know how they go. I don't know nothing about them.
Yeah.
And there's only one way to find out. Enter it.
Let's just enter it.
And I did. I wanted to. I've talked to Cade. I really wanted Cade to show him as his 4-year-old year on the heel side. Lance told me, he said, no. He goes, you show him. Pay your dues, enter, get your butt kicked, find out what they want, let them know you're trying. Eventually, it'll be your turn. So I'm glad we did it that way because it's helped me a bunch. Met a lot of cool people. Got to be friends with a lot of guys that are really good at the roping and the rope horse deal. Part of me wishes I'd let someone else show him, though, even though I trained him, just for the simple fact that he should have won more with someone better on their back with a rope. And so that's where we went that route. And then, not being able to rope enough, and the tougher this thing keeps getting, and you're trying to beat, and I'm in the open with him, and I'm like, I just don't rope enough to be where I think he should be. So that's when Driggers rode him his 6-year-old year, finally at Oklahoma at the Royal Crown. And then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, whatever it was, we were back up at Oklahoma City and for the ARHFA, and Tate rode him. Driggers rode him a day before we went, and he won the all ages. I don't remember. No, he didn't. I can't remember. He did. He won 2 rounds on him. That's right. He won 2 rounds on him in the all ages. Come back, and he placed on him in the fraternity afterwards, if I remember right. And then when I got back, Tate took him and rode him for about a week before he showed him, and he did good up there. And so then after that, I told him, I said, all right,
this was a 6-year-old year.
6-year-old year. I said,
now when you were starting to watch Driggers ride him, Tate ride him, this guy's bloodlines, has produced some damn good head horses.
Mm-hmm.
American Greed.
Yeah.
I know there's a handful of other ones. What was it? Tombstone.
Tombstone was the one that I originally thought I got to have one.
He's related.
He's full brother. Well, he's full brother to those 2. Sailor, your horse, Cotton.
Sailor, he got pretty good recognition. He was second for, the head horse of the year in 2020. Cotton that I've had, there's been a handful of gypsies that have done real well. As a 6-year-old year, did you start kind of seeing a little bit of where they were looking alike? They started looking like those horses?
He started getting some more snap to him. Like his 5-year-old year, he was getting really good his 5-year-old year coming into the fall, and we ended up having to treat him for EPM. I didn't get to show him at the ARHFA finals. So he didn't get shown up there his 5-year-old year, which kind of suck. He was doing good.
Yeah.
And then that 6-year-old mark is when he really matured, got physical, stronger, quicker, and he just, I don't know when he's going to peak, I mean, he's only 7, I mean, he's not even done growing.
Yeah.
And he's 15 hands, weighs 1,300 pounds.
This year he's 7, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's a stud. Like he's all there. Like he's got the front end on a stud. So you're thinking, a lot of people look at him and be like, man, can he move? I'm like, yeah. I mean, he only as much as you ask for him, and I can get on him and go work a cow or go head, go heel, do whatever I want, stall him up for 2 or 3 weeks and put Will's little kid saddle on him and just walk away and let him go do whatever the heck he wants to do. Crawl around on him, ride him, do whatever, ropes the dummy on him, or has. They don't do it a whole lot, but it's because he hasn't been home. And I've rode enough of the other gypsies, I've had some other ones from Joanne. I rode some for Jackie. You're one you're riding now. And the similarities, the consistency of Starlight Gypsy's offspring is what gave me full confidence in using him for a stud as a producer. Tombstone's a full brother. American Greed's a full brother. They got another mare that's a full sister that I haven't even seen her go, but they've said she's cool. But if you can get 2 or 3 full siblings that are that good at that level, that's saying something. I mean, you can kind of go, yeah, he should produce, because there's a lot of good studs out there. I've had one that is a great individual, but didn't throw him.
Yeah. Now, so talk about his mom's side a little bit.
So the Doc's Oaks,
because I've really liked those. I've seen a few of them.
Yes.
Mine seem good. Ability seems good.
They're gritty.
Speed. Yeah.
Most of the Doc's Oaks were a little gritty. It's that old school cutting stuff anymore. I mean, it's not the newer stuff. So they were a little tougher back then, and he doesn't show anything tough about him, but just the grit and I've never heard anything bad about a Doc's Oak. I mean, ever. I remember one time I was talking to Jackie about it, and she even said, I'd almost rather breed to him over his daddy just because he's out of a daughter Doc's Oak. I mean, that's the reputation Doc's Oak carried. They had the bone, which we're losing in today's horses, and
Gypsies throw good bone.
They throw a lot of good bone.
They got a good bone, usually pretty good black feet.
Yep. And he's
cinch real deep.
Very.
A lot of the little stuff that breeding right there kind of brings back to some of that old traditional
short backs, withers, which pockets that's his weak suit, and most of it's because he's a stud. He's got the big bulky front end from being a stud. But if I had to fault him conformationally, I mean, he could have a little better wither.
Well, I mean, when you're a stud, neither one of us have much withers either. It's just part of it.
Yeah, I got them great big shoulders too. Right, I wish. But there's a lot to be said about his pedigree from what's been already out there. I mean, like, you got pictures all over the wall of yours, and I'm sitting here going, I can't wait to have more, just one of my horse up there. But I wanted to, when Lance and I first started this deal, we had another really, really good stud before we bought from Haythorns. His name was Slushwood. He was a head horse, deluxe, so then we bought the mares. A friend of mine in Canada, Dan Pandolfo, has had a set of these mares, and I've always wanted some. As a kid, couldn't afford one. Then we ended up buying all of them. That was, I want to point the finger at Lance on that. I was trying to buy 2 or 3, and he's like, no, let's just buy them all. Like, he likes to buy everything in bulk. So we do. We buy a lot of them, like 2 ground loads of horses. If anyone's wondering, that's roughly around 64 head of mares. And so
it's a lot of feed.
It's a lot of feed. It's a lot of riding. We went through, started riding colts out of him. I mean, his guy's been breeding these things for 30 some years. So what we were after was like something stout, a lot of bone, still had some good pedigree, but it's old school, but it's close. And we wanted to raise head horses. I didn't want to raise, which I've always healed. but I didn't want to raise heel horses. I wanted to raise a head horse that you can heel on, not a heel horse that you can hit on. And it's not hard to find a heel horse, especially in the state of Texas. They're everywhere. Or a prospect with the cutting horses, the cow horse. You can dial the wrong phone number and get one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're everywhere.
Well,
so
that's the size for it for sure. There's
Yeah.
more of that size than anything.
Yep. You know, and these horses, they were rope horses. I mean, the mares go back to the old stuff. Bobby Lewis showed Dan's old studs and rode geldings out of there. JD's had some. And so there are a lot of people don't recognize the pedigree until you go show them. Guys are like, oh yeah, you know, but anyone today, it's not Metallic Cat. It's not nothing. But with that being said, when I bought Pocket, I had a guy tell me, he goes, why would you go buy a sorrel stud? I'm like, well, my mares are colored, so I'm not worried about the color part. But I said, man, I want, for what we're doing, I want a Starlight Gypsy. I want a rope horse. There's other ones out there. I mean, I could name a bunch of good horses. Obviously, the dual glows are good. Anything less glow kernel breds they make rope horses.
Yeah, that gunner's making a heck of a
There's
name for
another
itself
one.
this year.
Yes.
Terry's
You know,
a
so
4-year-old.
there's a bunch. But if you just keep breeding for the same thing, your gene pool gets pretty small. And I don't know. I like it. It's fun.
Well, like I say, you've already proven it now. So this has to be a little bit of weight off your shoulders in one perspective and enjoyable the next is. But what I know you have some on the ground, correct?
Yes.
Are they're 3-year-olds now?
The oldest, I got 3 3-year-olds by him. Tate's got 1, and I've got 2. He's got a mare, and I got 2 geldings. And
Now Jackie just bought something that was that.
she got 1, but it was by the Son of Play gun that we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that one's not out of him.
Nope.
Okay. I usually
Nope.
don't ask when
That-
he buys
that's
stuff.
next.
I just walk away.
Yeah. One of
But
these.
he looked cool. He looks really
Yeah.
cool. I really
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah. I think what I got going for the mares, I've started riding them all myself. And
So Tate's got a 3-year-old right now?
Tate's got a 3-year-old, and she looks pretty promising. She's out of my favorite mare that started the whole Canadian mare line purchase. That's
Now,
what I
what
was
is that?
after.
What is that mare?
She is, so the last stud that he had that he was breeding was a horse called B.H. Dotson Command by CB Command. And the mare's name herself is Jessie's Sony. And every colt I've had out of her has been very nice. Some have been a little better athletes than others, like full siblings, half siblings, don't matter. She's just been very consistent. I love the way they travel. They get big. A little tough to start, just as far as it's old school, man. I mean, they got a little more not as willing, but there's that grit and that tough. And then as soon as you get it, you've got something.
Got it.
And I started the mare Tate's got, and I put 30 days on her. And I thought she was cool. She actually belonged to Cody Carter at the time. And that was the deal when he bought her. I said, I get to start her because I want to know what this cross is like. So I started her. He had some changes in life go on where he was moving and stuff and was going to buy another head horse. And he's like, hey, I'm going to sell that mare if you know anybody. I'm like, all right. I'd like to have her back. But I said, can I at least sell her for you if I don't buy her back? He goes, yeah, absolutely. Put her where you want her. It's your deal. I need, want you. Cody's been great for me. He's helped me a bunch. And he said, put her where you want her. It's your program. You do it. So I called Tate and I said, hey, I got one for you if you want one out of pocket. You rode him. You like him. This is about as good as I can get you. He says, this mare's cool. So anyhow, she's pretty behind. By this time rolls around. She's almost 3. She's only had 30 rides on her. He sends her to Luke Newbert, and Luke rides her for 5 months. And Tate's got this mare. She's ready for the fraternities.
At 3.
She's awesome. She's 3. She's big. She's pocket size. She's probably 15
Well, the 2-year-old
hands.
you had the other day standing at the fence.
His colts are big.
Yeah.
They mature fast.
I didn't think that was a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I thought 5.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I felt like even him himself was a little slower, moving his feet as a 2-year-old was, he just kind of got to his size fast. Not that they just get 16 hands or nothing, but they just, as 2-year-olds, are 15 hands. And then they're
They're wide. They
Yeah.
cinch deep. They're just, they're all there. They step on your foot, you feel it.
Yeah.
Because like Sailor, I think Sailor's only 14.3.
Yeah.
He wasn't even 15 hands, but he could handle the big ones because he was so dang
strong, physical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a 15-hand horse anymore, that's pretty good. We're not roping 650-pound steers.
Right, exactly.
Well, Tate does, but
well, some of your big stuff in the fall gets pretty big, but for the most part, that's the thing that's nice that I've always felt about the gypsies, that I loved the foot speed. I loved the foot speed because you get me on medium to smaller horns, I could get that rope going and I could just weld them little tiny horns off.
Yeah.
Because I had enough foot speed to be able to get speed on my rope that I could just
you can time them up.
Yeah, I could just chalk my stick up, put some English on it, and just put my curl wherever I wanted it, And that's feel. That's the stuff you can't teach.
Right.
And so they always had that feel, and I loved that feel.
Man.
And for most ropings, they're good World Series ropings. That's the steers.
Yeah.
That's not like they got a bunch of bone these days.
Right. And little horns, because cattle are hard to find. They're roping them too young. They barely stick out of the horn wraps. You ride some big, long, clumsy.
That's a recipe. That's a recipe for waving it off.
Yeah. Man, I can do that on pocket. So
it's hard to handle because they can't get matched up the same speeds as steer. That's what these can.
I was going to ask you that with Sailor and Cotton. Pocket's strongest suit is he reads the steer standing in the chute. I know that's why he scores as good as he does, but they match the speed of the steer so fast. And obviously, we've all watched Sailor go a bunch. I've watched Cotton. I've roped with you enough behind him. Is that something you think is more them or man-made?
I think both.
Both.
Because the reason I say that is I think it was probably natural for them because they learned how to use their feet correctly.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think that's when they learn to find it, that's one thing. And the reason I say that is because then when you got on Gypsy, we almost sold him because we had this horse sitting around here, and I'm like, man, I don't want him to turn on. And I go ride him around, and he ride fine, but like I couldn't feel nothing. You're like, give me a week. You came and took him, maybe it was a month. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But you came back, and I think there's something there. And when you got done with him, and maybe in a week, might have been 2, it was not much.
Right.
And you literally taught that horse how to find his feet. And when he came back, didn't even feel like the same horse.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes I think where there's some help when they find their feet, they're able to use them. That's just opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Now I think there's some of them that are very natural, but they have it there.
Yeah.
And that's is very hard to teach is if they don't have it and they're not built to have it. I think that's when it's really hard to find. It's impossible for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, you can take a horse and help them find everything. The obviously the more athletic they just naturally are, the faster it goes, the easier it is for them. And
how much do you think that helps a lot of this stuff where, how many cattle do you run? How many ranches do you guys, what's some of the stuff you do in your cowboying?
So there for a while we had a buy-in addiction of way too many Corrini cows. And, I think the most we had on hand of cows and ropers both was at one time up to like 1,500. And over the last 4 years with the drought and land getting sold and everything getting chopped up, we're down a lot on cow numbers, which has been kind of nice. We're probably down to 125, 30 cows. But I've been running some yearlings the last few years, and I like it. It's been working good, and it has been amazing for the horse program. Both the cow deal was good too. Don't get me wrong. You get a lot of riding in, a lot of outside exposure for them horses. And that's kind of what's worked for my training program. I'm not one that can stand in a arena in lope circles all day. My ADHD kicks in.
Need to change the scenery.
I got to get outside, but I can take a horse. I can't take a lot of horses, but I can take a horse and you get more hours on them in a day. They get a lot of heat put on them. You're sorting, you're catching something. You got to do it. It's not, we're going to stop and fix this. He pulled on me right here. We can kind of work on that as we're going. I have the room to do it. And then after you blow their skirt up a little bit, he's either tied up, thrown back in the trailer, and he has time to think on it, and you're going to the next spot, or you're going to go catch the next yearling, whatever's sick. And I still think the outside horses that have been rode by someone who ropes good make some of the best arena horses. I mean, not 100%, but it just seems like them horses seem to they just pick it up fast.
Well, in my opinion, too, for one, you're making runs on them. For another, when you're sorting the cows off the cows, cutting, whatever, they're learning to use their feet.
Yep.
They're also being used.
Well,
that's what it seems so different than most of the guys that, they have to stay in the arena because that's the only way they make a living. They got to stay in that arena, so they have to have volume.
Yep.
These are getting used and moved. I mean, they're getting used all day in some cases.
Well, and like the pressure thing of it, a lot of people don't realize it. And the bay horse we talked about the other day that you sent me, just been used outside, and he was just, for a 5-year-old, a very nice horse. Well, you teach them horses how to deal with pressure, because after you start sorting on them, they start anticipating and thinking, man, I got to hurry up and cut in front of this. No, you need to stand still. These ones got to go by, and you do that enough times, pretty soon they're like, all right, I can't move. But then when you ask them to move, it's got to be now. And then going right back to standing still. Well, that you just taught him how to stand in the box. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, he's anticipating it, but he knows he can't move. But
waiting for you to lead him.
Yeah. He's waiting for you to tell him, all right, buddy, go. So there's a lot of things that you can relate to things while you're out there. And it's crazy. The older I get and the more people start helping, I'm not that good. I just have the right opportunity that helps me. But when you explain it to someone and you can relate it to like that in the alleyway, I'm like, it's the same thing as making them stand still in the box. I mean,
because that's the one thing when you come over and rope, your horses, by the time you get to my house, when they're in the box, they're like,
yeah,
it's nice to get my air back. Nice to just stand here.
We need to sit still.
Exactly. They can't wait to sit still.
And I'm that way when I start roping on my horses. I very seldom, when they're starting, I mean,
to me, that's the difference of when they're sitting in a stall all day getting Omeline, and how all the alfalfa you can eat in a 15x15 stall.
All jacked up.
Yeah, all jacked up, as opposed to getting used.
Yeah.
I can see a huge difference in the mentality when you come over here and sit on those.
But even when I start roping on them, about that, seems like it's always that 5th or 6th session, they start anticipating in the box. Even if I've just done what we just talked about, I do on them. Well, when I start doing that, if I'm waiting for the next steer to come, I don't quit moving anywhere. It's push a steer up or turning him around or stopping, back him up. I'll keep him busy, keep him moving without winding him, and then go stand in the box when it's our turn. And then they're like, okay, this is the only place I get to stand still. This is awesome.
You even helped me with that this summer when we were roping on Gypsy, because he's a bob and weaver.
Yeah.
When I would give him his head, he would just go left and right. And I watched some barrel horses do that.
Mm-hmm.
And pole horses, which I get it, they're always bobbing and weaving, what I mean? And so I have too many poles look like, but I could tell and I looked over you, I said, man, this is one of those things, I'm not even really sure what to do. I don't know how do you fix a bob and weaver? And you're like, either pull him left and right till he quits, or just keep jacking with him and jacking with him and jacking with him until he literally decides that it's so much easier not to move.
My idea sucked. Let's try yours.
Right. So what I started doing was every time he'd bob and weave, I would pick my hand up where both reins hit his mouth at the same time, and I'd kick, and I would elevate my feet and push him up into my hand, and then as soon as he'd come to my hand, I'd release.
Yep.
Then he'd bob and weave, and I'd pick my hand back up where he leveled back out, and I'd just jack with him. He said, that's what he was saying, if you'll jack with him, he'll be tired of you jacking with him, and he'll look for any reason for you to quit jacking with him.
Yep.
Now, I wasn't making it hard. I wasn't spurring him. I wasn't
mean.
I wasn't violent.
Yeah.
I was being as irritating to him as he was to me.
Yeah.
And finally pick up, kind of push him with my feet into the bridle right there. And I don't know, a week, and he kind of would do it, and I just pick him right up, and then after a while he would his head never moved.
Yeah.
And I was like, that it made so much sense when you talked about that, is you're giving them something to do. Give them something to do. Otherwise, they're going to do it themselves.
Yeah.
They're looking for something to do.
And you got to stay consistent with it.
And consistent. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you'd have done it that day and never done it again for another week, and then you tried it again another week, you'd be like, man, that guy's an idiot. This didn't work. But you stuck with it. So it helps.
Yeah, that outside, yeah, that's the stuff that my dad loved so much, and I think it's so much fun to be able to get out there too, and that's such a good opportunity to have that because it makes such good horses.
It does, and you can screw one up real fast too if you're been there, if you're not careful, and that's just, I think, getting older, you start realizing, okay, and then you want to know how good you are, go enter one of these things, especially if it's judged. You're going to find out, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Well, I was talking to Cody Carter, too, earlier today, and he was talking about the horse Torres is the bay horse that he make the finals on.
Paycheck, Saul.
And that one came from you,
yep.
Correct? Now, he was telling me about some of the certain desensitizing mechanisms you would do when you guys entered the Open, when you first cracked him.
Oh, I hate him. So... the first time I enter an open jackpot, and we're at Lone Star, and this little South Dakota dude is sweating bullets. I'm looking around and I'm like,
everybody what? Everybody's seen the Team Roping Journal.
I'm like, man, I've seen you in a magazine. I'm like, man, this guy's supposed to be good, like, pretty sure I've seen him in Vegas. And then I'm not kidding. The very first steer, Cody turns him, and when I turn in, I don't know, it was a blur, right? So I'm pretty sure what happened, there's the only way I can think of the way this would happen. I pass my shot up, horse sets up, I get thrown up over the top of my saddle just a little, and then I gas him, and then I'm on top of my cantle. I throw my rope, and when I throw it, he stops. I literally went completely over the saddle horn with my chin in between his ears. And the only thing I could hear was Cody's laugh, and I could hear Ruben Gonzalez up in the top of the bleachers laughing at me.
The only thing better would have been if that had been a fraternity, and they would have scored you on it.
Oh, my God. If it would have been so stupid. So I'll never forget sitting there with my Paycheck was a great horse, and this was mostly why I'm sitting there with my chin in between his ears, and I'm whispering into him. I'm going, because I am completely out of balance. If he makes one move one way or the other, I am on my back. I'm like, all right, dude, please don't move, not right now. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it's a good way to make sure that they can handle those guys at that upper level, because Junior, he'll get on the backside of them. So you want to make sure, if you get dashboarded, they can handle it. You want to make sure that they can handle the upper level.
With me being part monkey, sometimes on purpose and a lot of times like that on accident. The first time Junior made the American, he was riding, I called him Shooter. Patrick called him Raider, the horse I sold him. And I'll never forget. And I watched him ride him around. I'm like, damn, he's riding Shooter. This is going to be cool. And then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I know that horse very well. Does not like to be touched much. I thought, I wonder how it's going to go over when he gives the old pullback and just, and he does it, and he done it. Yeah, everything was fine. But I had it in my head thinking, he's going to jump out from underneath him. And, and most of mine, all my really good horses in pocket he's got enough feel. He don't panic or nothing, but he moves. But all of my really good ones have had that in them. Like, I'm really surprised Paycheck didn't dust me when I was in between his ears. But I mean, they all had a lot of feel and move. I mean, I don't get along with a very dead horse.
Well, the one thing I've watched, just as I've watched you ride some, the feet so well. That's the one thing about most of us guys at rodeo. We know the angles, we know the score. We're just trying to get the rope around the horns and hit the right angles. There's to learn the feet is a art, and that's reps obviously too. But me and Jackie has watched you, from what you did when you get on Gypsy. When I came back, like I said, I was like, man, it's there. It's just a matter of finding it, and you were able to find it. And then, Jackie had a horse a little while back that trying to figure out what the horse could do and what it couldn't do, and you'd gotten on it, and the horse dull on one side and panicky on another, and then wanted to buck, and Jackie's like trying to call you off, and I'm like, shh, quit talking to him. He's concentrating, for crying out loud. He knows when to freaking pull up and when not to. then for long, then you're backing him up, then he's rearing up. It's just like the horse just couldn't take the pressure. And within 30 minutes, you had this horse backing up as soft as could be, soft on both sides. And just the feel and you want to break it down. To me, it's feel.
Yep.
With the knowledge you have behind the feel to where then, and being able to put that chess piece together.
Yep.
Literally, like, you could tell she was trying to call you off to keep you safe. And you're like, no. I'm trying to figure out where to put my chess moves. You could see, there's a puzzle to put together there. And then 30 minutes, wasn't even lathered, breathing a little hard, warm, but like that horse had just gotten soft on every maneuver from backing up to loping around to, it was crazy. It wasn't even the same horse when you first got on.
And the little bit of sweat she did have going on, and even the breathing was more nerves than anything, And at that point, like, I could have got off of it and been like, oh no, I don't want to do that. It's a game. I want to, like, oh, I found something I don't like. Now I want to know I'm going to fix it. And if I have to take this thing home to do it, I'm going to do it because I don't want to look stupid. But it's all feel and timing. Timing is everything. And it's not so much the pressure of the timing, it's the release of the timing. So if you release, like she wanted to rear up, all I did is just grabbed her with my feet and just wanted her to back up. And she's like, no. She needed to go somewhere, and up was her way. Well, if I'd have let go while she was in the air, she'd have just been like, now I know how to get away from that. So I stayed hooked. I kept squeezing. I kept the same amount of pull I was giving her, which wasn't much, just enough to block her. And as soon as she did back up and I gave it to her, it was done. And she's like, oh, and then just sit there and let her think about it, and
how much of that, when there were 3, probably even 4, but I would probably more call 3 because, because that's when you're kind of riding and trying to get the miles put on. How much of that, when they're acting that way, was probably out of their their yearling to 2-year-old year on how they were started?
I'd say most of it is all started. Starting horses, a lot of people, I get it a lot. Used to, everyone wanted to send me one to start, and I'd be like, well, I didn't want to really do it. After I lived down here long enough, that's what I came down here to do. And then I was like, man, I want to ride outside horses. I want to ride my own. So I'd charge enough. And then they're like, well, what if I send it to so-and-so? He's cheap. He only charges like $600 and he'll just take them out and he'll just put miles on them. He don't teach them nothing. He just rides them. I'm like, no, I definitely don't want to ride him. If that foundation is not done correctly, you can't come back and fix it ever. You can Band-Aid some things, but to make the perfect, reliable horse for the next person to get, if he don't ride as good as you do or do the same things you do, he's not going to be able to manage it. Just like a house or any other building you do. If the foundation sucks, that building's never going to be correct.
Right.
So my suggestion to anybody who's looking for someone to ride colts, spend your most money on the best guy up front. Because if the next person gets on them after they start them and he kind of screws some things up, you can literally go back and fix it because that foundation was put in correctly.
Right.
And you're not bad, but everyone like, I too, I don't want to spend a bunch of money. Well, right now, these things aren't cheap. So if you need to get anything back out of him, do your homework.
That's what I've heard. A lot of need right now for a lot of people starting 2-year-olds.
Yep.
You can see in the Team Roping Journal the other day where they're talking about that.
Yeah. And I like it.
I can see why now.
I like the young horses more than I like the older horses. I've always been a 60-day colt starter or horse rider my entire life. And
Wyatt Bray, he was telling me when he was helping you start colts, he said that he went out there and went to catch one, and I think you had went and checked some cows and came back. And
I went all the way to Goldthwaite and came back. It's a 3-hour round trip just driving.
And that whole time he's still trying to catch this
The
one
same
horse.
one.
Same one. He said he was kicked twice, bit, and still never caught him. He said, you come over. He said, I'm not kidding you. It was less than 30 seconds. He walked up, caught him, and he said, I think by the end of the day, he was turning the steers.
Yeah. I walked in, and I'll never forget it. I opened the gate, and he's having, you could just see the frustration on old big boy standing in there. I said, how's it going, bud? He goes, not so good. I said, isn't that the same one you had in there when I left? He just, yeah. So I was like, so what's the problem? He's like, I can't get the halter on it. I'm like, all right. So I walk in, open the gate, and I was in here. I said, let me have it. And I walked up, pulled on it one time, and looked at me, and I let him just sniff me. Didn't try to touch it first, and that's literally all it took. And I just put the halter on her, and I turned around and handed him. It wasn't all that hard. He's like, screw you.
And from then on, he spent all this time. I think it was going to be a roper.
Yeah,
that was me and my dad.
I
was the same thing. My dad could do that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go rope.
Yeah, I'll find something I'm good at. I'll change light bulbs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't want to make the big guy mad. He can swallow me, so I like, here's a lead rope. You can, that's fine. You gonna work on any more to it? No, I'm gonna go home and rope. Yeah. But
yeah, that's one of the things that I've seen that, and you've talked about it too, coming from South Dakota. Some of the stuff that a guy had to ride at an early age, and certain places that you've had to ride. I mean, when you learn how to ride bad ones, it is amazing. One of the best sayings that I've ever heard too was, when you ride a good one, then you know what a good one's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
But when you're able to also get by bad ones.
Yeah.
And then you're able to know what you're looking for in a good one. It's amazing what you're able to do by riding bad ones and surviving it.
Oh yeah. And I was around some guys that were pretty good hands. Not like down here where you have the professional, the cutters or the cow horse guys, but really pretty good guys. I was around some bad ones too. But, so I had some sort of guidance, but most everything I've done was trial and error. I get down here and went to work for Frank Zermino, and I love Frank to death. He's given me a lot of opportunity. 'Cause I know if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have hired me at that time. And, so Frank did me good. Got to know Chris Cox after, Lance and I got together and partnered on some cattle and stuff. They did the roping schools. I was friends with Rich. That's when I met you a long time ago in Lano already. And Chris has helped me tremendously. I mean, I'm one of them, like, if I want to know something, I'll pick up the phone. I'm going to call you or whatever. I'll be in the middle of the arena or the cutting pen messing with one. I'm like, I can't figure it out. I'll make a phone call. I'm going to call someone who can help me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard. And it took me a long time to kind of get to that point, because I was like, I don't look stupid, but pretty soon I was like, yeah, I already look stupid. So you got to find some help. And
this is less stupid in the long run.
So Chris has helped me a bunch. There's been, Cody's helped me a bunch. Cody lived at our house for 8-9 months, whatever it was, and helped me a lot with my roping, just being a better horseman in general. And then Chance Harmon's rode with me some at the house, and I mean, there's a lot of guys I got to give credit to. I mean, I was just an idiot trying to fit in.
Yeah. It takes that much riding and that much knowledge, because like I said, to be around the best, man, you got to be around the best. And it's amazing how much faster that process speeds up when you're able to get around them guys that know how to do it.
Yeah.
So we talked about some of the horses that you've had that have gone to the NFR, some of the heel horses that you've made. But some of the horses now that you've had, I've also seen, because I've seen them at some of my clinics with some of the guys that I've helped. And one of the guys that had one of your horses, beautiful, beautiful horse. And he's kind of going through the jackpot stage of things. And he was telling me that he got offered quite a bit of money. I think it was maybe from after the U.S. final or the World Series finals, if I remembered right.
Yep.
And got a phone call. The guy says, I want that horse.
Yep.
And he called you back, and you're like, well, you better price him pretty high, because to be able to find one that's going to replace him, the longevity, I think, because of his age, I think he had plenty of longevity.
Yeah, because he's only a 6-year-old this year.
And he fit him.
Yep.
And, you kept telling him, man, to find that again is going to be real, real hard. So you're like, you better price him to where you're okay with, basically okay with it, because it would take you a couple of good World Series finals in Vegas to where you basically paid for him again.
Yeah.
And I think he said he came back at maybe $150,000.
Yeah.
$150,000 for a jackpot horse.
And if it was me, I'd have pulled the trigger. And I told him that. I said, man, he's like, should I sell him? I'm like, man, if you were me, I would. But I have a factory of them coming up out here. You have a chance. You go to he's a weekend warrior. I mean, he goes to every jackpot there is. And I said, for what you've already won on him, as a 5-year-old, he's coming 6. at this time. I said, you can win that on him if you have one good hit in Vegas at a World Series Finals. You can nearly win that. Now, if you sit out there and you have a good week and, you place in the top 10 in 2 or 3 ropings, you're probably going to win more than that. I said, and then you still got the horse.
Yeah.
I said, but if you sell him, and it's got nothing to do with me raising him. I'm a realist about it. I know I'm not going to raise the perfect horse all the time or ever. And I told him, I said, if you sell him to replace him, it's going to cost you at least $65,000 for where you've got him. And you might not fit him. As good, if you're winning on that horse. And I told him, I said, the best thing I ever heard someone tell me was, don't base it off of what you can win on one, base it on what he keeps you from winning.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter where he
But
went.
by Bolding House. I remember hearing that in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's not how much you win on a horse, how much one keeps you from winning.
And I've had that horse.
And that horse never did it.
Yeah.
It was amazing when he came and just a couple little things to help him with in the box, just a couple, and that horse just hit.
Yeah.
And so willing. The horse just wanted to do good.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you put in him. So then when you watch someone to where you can just help them with a couple little timing issues and when the release hits, and then all of a sudden you can just see them like, oh yeah, they recognize it.
Yep.
And then they can get right on pace. And that horse is young to be able to go
very young.
Done. And,
and the
he
horse
doesn't look, I was thinking probably 8 or 9.
Yes. And he's literally bred to be a rope horse. And
yeah, he looks like a head horse.
He's 15 hands, maybe 15-1. And he's got the color to go with it. He's got the whole package, really. I heard a guy tell me, I heard it last year at a rope horse fraternity. He wasn't just necessarily talking to me, and he goes, these guys can't breed. They got a rope horse program. You're breeding for rope horses. And I'm not going to mention no names. He said, you can't. He goes, there's no such thing as a rope horse program. They're good bred horses, and if they don't make it in that, they try the roping, and that's what's making all these horses. This was at a fraternity. I had to bite my lip and just keep on walking, and I'm going, man, yes and no.
That was probably true 5 years ago.
Yeah,
what
but
do you say? Because a lot of guys were buying the rejects.
Yes, but in my mind, a reject's a reject. If he's not good, there's a couple deals that go along with that. If he's not good at what he was bred for, okay, is it because he got too big, but he still tries?
Yep.
Okay, we'll find what he's good at.
Absolutely.
Well, he's huge. Let's try him as a rope horse. If he tries to please you, obviously he's gonna make a pretty good horse.
Yep.
But if he's the size he's supposed, let's just use a cutter, for example. If he's the size he's supposed to be, he don't want to please you, and they're like, yeah, he's broke. You can do this on him, but he's a reject.
Right.
Well, he's an idiot. He's not going to make.
We've had
pretty good odds.
We've had a few of them to where you're seeing now why he was cut. Why he was cut from the in the industry he was in because of his attitude.
Yeah.
It didn't take, and
so
you see a lot of that, but. What you're seeing Trevor and you and some other guys doing now is now they're breeding for them.
Yeah.
And they're training them for the right buttons. So when you go to heading on them, they have those, because that's what's so hard about some of the reiners that I had or some of the cutters that I had. And some of the others guys that I've had that I bought in horses, the buttons weren't the same. So you had to reprogram new buttons for them. And they would just get frustrated a lot of times because, what some people might say go forward means to go back in certain places, and it's just like, it was just so hard.
Yeah,
now they're getting put the right ones into where it relates to what they're about to do.
Well, and I think it was Tate that said it, which I've heard him say it, but I'm pretty sure he said it on your podcast, that he likes the ranch horses. And why? It's because they've been taught to run to the cow, slow down when you get to the cow, put it on the horn, pull against it, and go where you're telling him to go. I don't know. That's where team roping originally started.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of super good bred horses out there. I would love to have a bunch of them, but to go buy those, and hope they hold up, Pocket is a good example of a horse that don't take a jerk. He gives it, and that's what I want. Heel horse both, whether he's little or he's big. I don't want my horse to take a jerk. I want him to give the jerk.
Good analogy.
If the steer stands up and he holds his leg and walks 3-legged to the strip and shoot, we're winning.
Well, I think it's a pretty cool testament, like I said, for the heel horses you've had going to the biggest stages in the world, and then, to be able to have now something, because you just started the head horse. You've just kind of been
the breeding
kind
deal,
of still new
yes.
into the head, and you've had good success early already, and so
it
that's
should be
pretty
fun.
cool
I think our
accomplishment.
oldest one's like the buckskin horse we were talking about. He's 6. He was by Rocky Top Pep, our old sire that I used last, and I've had a lot of good success with him. They were just real good, honest horses. They were made good. They were real pretty. And I've always called them, I'm like, hey, they're like the perfect team roper horse, man. I mean, they pattern. They don't just have all these little buttons. You show them their job, you show them how to do it, you leave them alone when they do it right. They got it. They figured it out. That some of them probably could have a little more speed or something, but they figured their job out. And I've always said they're like the perfect team roper's horse. I mean, you can get mad at them and take out your frustration for your own fault, and they done forgave you about it. Back in the box, go do another one. I mean, so I'm hoping with that on pocket, that's what we're riding right now. The 3-year-olds are pretty nice. My 2-year-olds, I think.
What is some of the breedings you have now on your 3-year-olds? What are the mares? Because you stick to some old school stuff and some manners on the mare side, don't you?
Yeah. Most of the mares, I've got it narrowed down to they're pretty tight bred because they come out of that Canadian deal. And when a man has a program where they've bred 3 different studs and just kept daughters out of them, bred it to this stud, kept daughters out of them, bred it to this stud. I've got it narrowed down to 3 different mare lines that go back on the great dam side. The top 3/4 of the papers all looks the same, so I'll rattle it off, and it's not even going to sound like English, but it's, CB Command's what they go back to. And then the Illini Cactus King was a stud that he had. That was a big old school sprinter type horse. Nobody really knows him. Well, I know there's a mare that he had out of him that a friend of mine still has. And one day we're going to end up, hopefully next year, get her bred to pocket. Jake Barnes leased her for the BFI. I'm like, well, if he's going to lease a horse like out about what I've got, which he's had a lot of them go to the barrel horse world too. I mean, they're old school sprinters. The run's there, but it's not the new stuff. So it's a dark horse pedigree, and I'm just trying to bring it back. I guess a lot of people would say, well, he's trying to reinvent the wheel. Well, really not. I'm just kind of going back to what worked, and then I'm going to add in some modern day stuff. I got another young one coming up. I'm pretty pumped to add in. He's a Pepsid, and we'll see how that goes. But
what ranch was that? Is that the picture?
Tongue River?
Tongue River. Yeah.
I've been super psyched about Pepsids since I first seen a couple of them go, and I'm thinking
now Logan's got one.
Logan, I think's got 3.
Logan Meadows got 3.
I think so. I know he's got 2. The bay, if not both bays, and the gray. Which I'm not 100%. I'd have to ask him. The gray might be, it could be a full brother, I think, to Trip Townsend's TRR Lucky Brazos, Hip Town. Phenomenal horse. I'm going to breed some to that Pepsi colt this year when I start him, just
because you're getting a good array of horses between, like I said, I'm loving where I'm seeing where the head horse is going, because to me, that's my opinion, that's where most of the money is going to be. I mean, the head horses are pretty much like the barrel horses. I mean, if you don't have a good head horse, the header does not exist. I mean, I've seen it time and time. Look at the top 15. When the head horse goes down, usually so does the header.
And it's hard.
Healers can kind of get by on some other stuff and things like that and other horses. I'm not saying it's not as important on the heel side.
Right.
But head horse is big.
They set the run up.
They set the whole run up, and they got to have the run. There's so many moving parts to the head horse.
Yes.
But you've also got some dang nice, you've already proved yourself on the heel side too, but then also that horse that Jackie's going to have, that horse looks good. That's going to be a bad A breakaway horse.
I think she's
got the run, and can bury that freaking butt underneath of her hocks.
Yeah, she's going to be fun. I'm
so
excited
between those
to see where
3
that goes.
events, that's pretty dang cool to be able to have those kind of horses, because I'm not saying that just because I married a breakaway roper, but the breakaway roping, where it's headed, that's good to be able to have some horses headed in that industry as well.
Little variety. I want to be able, and it all goes down to like Dean Tufton's. One guy I look up, I don't know the guy. knows program very well. And he's like, man, I want to put these horses where they're the best at, whether it's heading, heeling, roping calves, or breakaway. That's my focus. I mean, I would love to go try the cow horse thing out at some point, but it's fun. And I think the one Jackie's got, she could have almost went that route, but I was like, man, I just feel like breakaway is this mare's deal. That's when I called her and I said, I think I got something here. You probably don't need another one.
Well, one of the things is like you can see when one runs under her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's hard to find. And so what I mean by that is like when one runs under you, like basically that stride is trying to get ahead of your swing. So when it's getting ahead of you, when you go to rope, it's going to carry your rope to the target, wherever it's, heading or breakaway. And that's feel. That's hard. There's certain things on a horse you can't teach.
Right.
And feel and speed is usually two of them, in my opinion.
The coolest thing, that mare's got that, but I think one of her strongest attributes is she finds the cow right now. Yeah. Like it has from the first time I ever roped one on her. Like pins her ears and just gets that spot right off the bat. And I was like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
and one that's been started right. Because if they're started right and they have a good mind, the willingness right there is going to last a long time. Yeah. And willingness was always something I bought. Whether it didn't have the talent, I'll find a place for it. But if it's willing, it's on my team. And you're so looking for that willingness. But then also, too, was for her event, they have to be able to stop naturally. They have to be built for it. It has to be natural because you can't help a horse stop in game time.
Yeah.
They have to be able to know when they pull.
It's got to be on their mind.
They can be wallering all over that sucker, and it's going to be natural for it to get in the right place, the right time. Because if you're trying to be 1/8 and you have to help that horse in a you're not going to win. This is the way it is.
Well,
and that horse had all that. It was pretty cool.
They need to know where they're going and that they're about to have to stop as soon as it comes past their eyeball. Because if you got to help them run to the cow and then pull on them, well, I mean, you're added money.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Which we got to have them too.
Yeah. That's where I think that's why all the guys freaking treat me with welcome arms when I go to security. Oh, Chuck's back.
Sure glad he's here.
There's 1,500. Nice. Hey, can someone give him a plug in?
That's what they said about me at the rope horse fraternities. I'm pretty sure it's like, man, he's got a sweet horse, but I'm glad he's riding him.
Well, man, I'm so happy for Pockets. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for what you've done, you and Lance both, because that's a good win. That's a big win. But for, everyone's going to be hearing about Pockets now.
Yeah.
That AQHA World Championship title in the senior division, that's going to be something that's going to carry some weight through the industry. So congrats on that. But like, as far as, Tyler Schaffner goes, a lot of people, you stay in the shadows for a long time making really good horses, but this is something Caleb sent me this morning. He's talking about how great your stud was, how great, because he rode your stud as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old?
6. When
he was 6. He said that's a very good stud, very good-minded, probably because he takes a dummy to train a dummy.
Yeah, of course he had to have that in there. That's why we're friends.
Yeah. He said in that case, the stud had no choice. He said, man, Schaffner puts a lot of outside miles on his horses so that the arena is easy for them once they get there. And he said, as for a person, you won't meet a better guy, better family guy than him and Kelsey. They're building big things over there with Lance Inderman. And he said he's happy to have, happy that you guys are at the Gold Buckle fraternity for Starlight Oak and to be in the Stallion Incentive Program. So, I mean, you got one of the all-time best headers, and in my opinion, one of the greatest guys in the head side and roping world going, because there's not a better guy right now that's trying harder than Driggs.
Yeah. No.
To get a compliment by Driggs, man, that's when you're doing stuff right, you know. But, I mean, there's nobody, I mean, he kind of reminds me of Trump in a way. He doesn't have to be a team roping director.
Right.
But he wants to make a difference.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a thankless job to try to win the world and then to saddle yourself with that job.
Being that competitive and a great human being together creates all that.
Yeah.
And he is, I've man, I've probably picked on him as much as I've picked on anybody.
You better stay sharp when you freaking throw one at him because he will come back.
You come in with a dull
strong.
knife, you're screwed in that fight. I mean, he's fast, he's quick, but
If you can stay level with him, you are doing it.
Yeah.
He's like a Tony Hinchcliffe of roasters, man. He can come back fast.
I am glad he kind of finally had a kid though, because he's been a lot quieter since.
Yeah, I bet he's sleeping right. I bet he's wondering now all them irons he has in the fire. Like, oh man, this kid, could throw all that and then throw that little kid on there.
Yeah.
He's all there.
I'll see if he's a real man.
He's a
more
gamer.
of 'em.
He's a gangster, man. He can handle it. But it's pretty cool to be able to have the, like I said, Tate said the same thing. You know what you can do with a horse to where he can spend one day on it and then go win the AQHA World Championship. So, man, it's testament to your training program, how you train them. Man, it's pretty awesome. So, I will say one thing that's when I was talking to Wyatt Bray, he said the only time he ever hears his dad laugh at his phone, he goes, "What are you laughing at?" And he goes, "Every time he'll say, I'm just watching one of Tyler's Snapchats." So, if anyone wants to follow Tyler and get some good entertainment throughout the day, get on his Snapchat. I've heard of stuff. I don't have Snapchat. I don't have TikTok much. I try to stay away from things that I know will time suck me. It's enough to Twitter or X. That's my politics. It gets me enough, so I try to stay away from that. But I've heard your Snapchat is as good as anyone's.
Well, we got to have fun out today, otherwise it ain't worth doing it.
So how do we follow Pockets? What all outlets do we have? Websites? Where's he standing? How do you get him collected? Where are all the opportunities that everyone's going to be wanting to know as they're looking to get some breeding out of Pockets?
So Starlight Oak 017's his Facebook page. I typically try to share everything I put on it, just that way if nobody's got him on the page and they're friends with me, they at least still see it. But Roadrunner Ranch has got her own page. He's got his page. Mine. And as far as breeding goes, KB Ranch and Stallion Station out of Comanche, Carrie Robertson, she's the one that does the collecting on him and all the breeding and everything. So that's, she's got the knack. He wasn't the easiest to collect and she's got him figured out. So we're going to stick with her. She's good. She does a great job. I'm glad to have her. If I didn't have her, I don't know if I'd even be here because I probably wouldn't be promoting the sucker as much as we've had. I would be out in the pasture breeding mares, but he's probably going to end up out there one of these days. He started that way. He's going to end up there. So.
And it's happy for you. I'm happy for that horse. Man, it's a good win for you, Tate, Lance, everything you guys are doing. So yeah, I'm happy for you, man. It's got to be. And I mean, like I said, with this last night, remember you sending me the text message last night, man, he did it.
Yeah, that was.
And I was like, let's do this.
Tara calls me.
Let's have this conversation.
Tara calls me and she goes, are you up there? I said, no. I said, I stayed home. She goes, well, me neither. I said, well, I told Tate to get the picture taken. I said, let Kyle step in there and we'll just Photoshop his head out and put me in there. Yeah, she said, well, tell him to find a blonde walking around over there and do the same thing for me too while you're at it. And I said, yeah. And she said, did you see where he cried and got emotional? I said, yeah. I said, the prick made me cry too. I said, it was pretty good. I couldn't believe it.
He's probably like crying because he's like, I knew I should have I knew I should have given that horse props on Charlie's podcast.
Yeah. I asked him, I said, Charlie couldn't have gave you any more hints. I think the only thing he could have done was put a Post-it on his forehead saying, Starlight Oak 017, because I don't know how many times you asked, you sure you ain't got no studs in your barn or anything you're trying to promote? Nope, nothing.
Nothing.
Not a thing. I'm going.
Any friends you want to give any props to? Anything? Anybody that gives you steers?
I called him after you called me and told me that, and then when you guys got done, he's like, oh my God, I forgot to mention Schaffner stud, and I was like, I'm going to mess with him. So I did call him. I said, man, since you forgot to mention Pocket on that podcast today, I said, I got a trailer coming over there to pick up them 70 rope and steers and go on to Cade Rice or somebody.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, it's been good. Tate's been awesome. The kind of guy Tate is with the horse, he truly likes him as much as I do.
Yep.
I left to go to South Dakota and he told me, he goes, what are you doing with Pocket? Well, you're gone. I'm going to be gone for like almost 2 weeks. He goes, where are you putting him? I said, well, we're going to just build a trap out here or I'll leave him in pen so he can get out of a stall and I ain't gonna worry about him and my neighbor's gonna take care of him. He goes, oh, no, that ain't happening. Bring him over to my house. You just leave him here. I'll put him in a stall. I'll take care of him. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that ain't the first time it's happened, but I mean, that's how he is. And
Tate.
That horse is, anybody that knows the horse, I don't know if it's his demeanor when he's around you, but he's got a way of melting you to him.
Yeah.
I mean, you've rode him. I mean,
Yeah. And I know the bloodline. They're
Yes.
all similar.
Yeah.
They're kind horses. They want to do good.
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen anything. They're a little serious, the ones that I've had, but I think a lot of that maybe from the cutting that kind of made them serious, but they just want to please.
Yeah.
And that's what one thing I loved about the attribute is the feel, the foot speed, but they want to please you.
Every horse has a bad day. I've honestly never had a day with him where it was just like, I mean, you can get onto him, wake him up or do something, or he just didn't do what you were asking him to do or do better when you asked him to do better. I mean, he's, I don't know, he's once in a lifetime horse.
Yeah.
And so far, I got to say his colts are pretty consistent.
Yep. It's going to be fun.
Him.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. You're in a fun process with all that. So,
well
thanks, man, for coming on, man. Congratulations. That's awesome. And thanks for coming on the podcast, buddy.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
You bet.